Hello again, welcome now from Valley Falls State Park, south of Morgantown. This upcoming week's topic is basically how a computer reads one single line of code, looking at variables, statements, and operators. This first video will look at variables. The other two, unfortunately, will need a whiteboard, so it won't be quite as picturesque behind me. Every single piece of data that we will work with in Python, that we use in ArcGIS, that everything that basically comes through on the internet, at some point gets stored as a variable. Everything in the entire torrent of information is a variable. There are two things to remember about variables. The first, they are named containers. We can have generic names like X or Y. We can have informative names that tell you something about what's in it, like list. We can even have kind of silly names like Fred. The computer truly doesn't care. The other thing to remember is that everything that is in the variable is a particular kind of information. It can be a number, an integer like 5. It can be a real number like 3.14. The computer will recognize integers and real numbers as different things rather than just lumping them all together as numbers. It can be some text, like hello. It can be a particular kind of variable called a Boolean variable. That's a fancy computer science term for true or false. So it'll be, I have here written true. So if I want to say, if x equals 5, that is true. So I can assign that value of true to y. That is distinct from a text of the word true. The next kind of variable is empty. It is none. It represents the empty container, different from 0. Different from a text string of length 0 or an empty string. It will use the specific word none, and it will represent an empty container. Sometimes when you create variables, they will be initially created as empty, and that can cause problems down the line if you're not aware of that particular type of variable. We can have more complex things called objects. We will see objects in greater detail in about 2 to 3 weeks. In ArcPy, in GIS, we may often see objects represented here by a figment or a little dragon, as a polygon, or the geometry of a polygon, representing, say, the outline of Monongalia County. That can be its own specific type of data, represented as an object in a variable. The last one I will look at today is a list, or a sequence of objects, or as one object. A list will have, instead of just referring to one thing, it is several in a pre-specified order. They do not all have to be the same type. So I can have 5, followed by 10, followed by 3.14, followed by our figment object. That is perfectly valid for a list variable. The other kind of sequence we will see a lot in ArcPy is called a tuple, which is very similar, except with a list, I can edit. I can change the contents. I can take out 5 and put in hello. With a tuple, once I have it set, the lids go on, and it cannot be edited. It cannot be changed. And if you try to change it, it will cause errors. So those are the most common types of variables we will see and work with in this course. That wraps up variables. As just a recap, 2 main things to take away. Variables are named objects the name here being list, and they are containers with different kinds of information inside of them. The most common ones we will work with being numbers, both integers and real numbers, pieces of text, Boolean or true false, objects like our figment here, sequences like this list, and none, or an empty container. Thank you for watching. I will see you at the next video.